So tell me, what will you do when disaster strikes suddenly? Not far away, but when it happens right in the heart of where you live. Do you know the 6 essentials that will keep you alive when things get really desperate? We'll tell you right now. Those essentials are food, water, shelter, medicine, a means of self-defense, and a plan. The action plan for contingencies. If you have each of these essentials in place, then you increase your odds of surviving exponentially, so that you don't have to live like a refugee. Our motto is Prep to Action, and John, your host, will teach you everything you need to know about staying alive when things go south. So subscribe to the channel and learn how to save your own skin. We'll see you on the inside.
How many hearts have you broken with those great big beautiful eyes? Those great big beautiful eyes that tell such beautiful lies.
How many times have you kissed somebody like you kissed me then? I don't.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and all ships at sea. We interrupt this broadcast to bring you an important message from the Prepared Mind Network.
Cut out the jibber jabber. Don't be babbling like a fool. Say what you got to say. That's all. Then shut your dang pie hole.
Hey everyone, here we are. It is Sunday Night Live. We are at the zoo, and it's not just a regular zoo. It's a Sunday night ZOO-Maggedon. That's right. The armies of the Middle East are coming together for a war. Yeah, it's kind of like Armageddon, but it's a zoo out there, folks. We got the whole world watching, wondering, waiting, and talking a bunch of trash. We're going to talk about SHTF because, well, from the Prepared Mind bunker, I can't do anything to fix the problem, right? I can get prepared. And I want you to understand, in order to get through all this, we need a high amount of awareness of what is happening and where the potential threats are that will hurt us as individuals. Washington will worry about Washington. Trust me, they'll handle themselves. Israel was going to do what Israel does. They'll handle themselves. Iran, Hezbollah, Hamas, Palestine, Syria, Lebanon, Turkey, Russia. Everyone's got their own backs covered. Don't worry about them. Worry about yourself. There's nothing else you can do. Call your congressman. Hey, fix this shit. They don't know what the hell they're doing, folks. Half of Congress is supporting one side, the other half is supporting the other, and none of them are supporting you. Trust me on that one. They don't give a frog's hiney about you. Now, I want to start off with this. These people are all called violence, one way or another. Now, I want to start off with some U.S. politicians because they really know, right? Light in the loafers, Lindsey Graham, Senator, Rhino Republican, so you know you can trust him. Are we on? Ooh, man, are we live? Okay. Phew, I was going to say, I haven't said anything yet. Holy cow, I haven't even gotten started. And they're already blipping us. Blip, blip. Oh, man. Okay. Let us continue. So, light in the loafers, Lindsey Graham warned Hezbollah, if you intervene, if you get involved, if you lift a finger to your RPG rocket launcher, then the United States government is going to respond not against you, Hezbollah, but against Iran. Folks, Lindsey Graham loves where we're at. He loves this crap. Yes, he does. He is all about war. He really is. He's been talking shit about Russia, and now he gets to talk shit about Jerusalem, Palestine, Iran, etc. Interesting, the fighting is in, well, Israel with Palestine. Hezbollah is talking some trash. So now they want to bring Iran into it. You see how fast this can get really far, really wide? You bet. You bet. Now, people are protesting left and right. People in America, people in Europe, around the world, they're getting out there. They're all pro-Palestine and pro-Israel. What do you believe? What do you believe is the correct move? Now, Uman's going to step in and help out here and there, but I need your help right now. This is Sunday Night Live. This is the Zoo, and I need you to hit that button right up there, right? Copy and paste the internet address for this show, and then share it with others. Hit the thumbs up. Let's get a good crowd rolling. I know it's a 3-day weekend, but it's Columbus Day. Come on. We know what Columbus Day is about. It's about getting Monday off. Now, we love Columbus. Thanks. Good job, buddy. Right? But it's about Monday off. I think that getting in touch with what the hell is going on is probably a bit more important. So let's do that. Let's get everyone aware and awake. Now, whether this really gets nasty, folks, is we have been having, well, not just thousands, not just hundreds of thousands, but we have millions of non-Americans pouring across the border. We've gotten reports from people who are down there on the border of the United States of America, and they're seeing more than just Hispanics and Latinos coming across the border. They're seeing Chinese, they're seeing Africans, they're seeing, Eastern European types. And they're also seeing, that's right, you guessed it, Northern African and Middle Easterner types. Guys that would just love to light up the night if they had the opportunity here. And again, I want to remind everyone that the border is and has been wide open, that the drug cartels are in position, and that drug cartels have been getting shoulder-fired rocket launchers and other rockets and missiles that were sent to Ukraine, and they ended up right back here on our shores. Now, what's interesting and fascinating is the Palestinians are now getting, weapons that the United States government, Washington, D.C., the Biden administration left behind in Afghanistan. We've got a shitstorm brewing, folks. You have to pay for everything. There is nothing free. And I'm not just talking about buying something. You have to pay for mistakes, right? If you were to go into a bank and accidentally rob it, you'll pay for that mistake. You take your car and you crash into someone's living room, you will pay for that mistake. And if your country, your supposed government, right, our government, Washington, D.C., which makes mistakes in our name, then we get to pay for it. The same way the Israeli government is now paying for its mistakes. And the Palestinians and Hamas and Hezbollah and Iran and everyone else are going to pay for their mistakes. Everyone is going to pay. That's what happens when things get nasty. And people like Lindsey Graham think it's cute. They really do. All right, I'm hoping we're going to hear from Chin Music, Mr. Skylight, Darcy T, Bonnie Blue, and all of the usual suspects. This is Sunday Night Live. Get your questions down below, and we will get started. We got a good number. We're building a great audience right here live, and it is happening. And I want to talk a little bit about the death toll from what has happened. So, oh, come on, don't you start with me, computer. Over there in Israel, Hamas has decided to light up the night by launching, reports of thousands and thousands of rockets being shot over. And then their people, Hamas, they came over on ultralights. Essentially, it is a large gas-powered fan with a parachute or a hang glider. They invaded Israel with parachutes and hang gliders powered by lawnmowers. and they have rained terror, truly rained terror. Now, the death toll has risen to 700, and at least 260 people, young people, were slaughtered at a dance party in the desert. And I want to ask the question, who the fuck goes to a dance party in the desert? I mean, Jiminy Crickets, the desert, really? I guess that's what they got. They got lots of sand over there. So they're having a party, a peace rally, a peace. Wow. Well, they bought it, folks. But it's far worse than just that. People have been kidnapped. People are being murdered on the streets. Their corpses are being paraded. They're being put on social media. Hamas, the Palestinians, are treating this like a holiday. Children are being kidnapped. People are being held for ransom. It is an all-out attack. Right? Now, this is what's going on over there. And I tell you what, I'm very sad. These people are idiots. All of them. They can't live amongst themselves. Now, I remember in the United States of America years ago, you may recall what I'm about to talk about. There used to be these stickers that would show up on people's cars, typically left-wing people. And it said, coexist. And it had a moon and a this and a shape. And there was a shape for every religious section, right? To spell the word coexist. How's that working? Right? Who are the ones that are fighting? Everybody are out there fighting each other. The people that are calling for coexistence, tolerance, they're the ones who are the most dangerous. So I say this, get ready. It's going to get nasty. And it could get nasty, not just in Israel. It can get really nasty in Iran. It can get really nasty up in Europe. It can get really nasty over in the United States of America, where most of this audience is sitting right now. It can get really damn nasty really quick. Now, Mr. Uman has been sending me links and sending other people links, and others have been sending me links of protests going on around the country, followed by arrests going on around the country. The Palestinians and pro-Palestinians are setting up, protest places, of course, with the help of BLM and Antifa types, setting up tables and making sure everyone knows what to do and how to chant like an idiot, because that's really what helps things out when these lunatics start chanting at their protests. So out come the pro-Israelis, and they want to chant and counter-protest. And so expect violence, folks. Expect violence. Remember, though, that the people that don't look like you, and by you, I mean Americans, if you look like an American, you look different than the other guys. They don't like you, whether you're Israeli or not, or whether you're Jewish or not, or whether you look white or not. They just don't like you. They don't care. They hate everything about you. And those people have been pouring into this country over the last couple of years by the millions. Again, millions. Some of them couldn't care less about you, but the ones who are from North Africa and the Middle East, they hate your guts. It's a very scary world, folks. I don't promote or glorify violence, but what I can tell you is these people are helping themselves be identified. And there's a bunch of veterans out here who understand stuff, right? I'm not going to go driving around looking for these creeps. But if they want to pull a St. George Floyd situation like 2020, we'll all be ready to take care of ourselves. And this is where being prepared comes in. Food, water, shelter, clothing, medicine, means of self-defense. It's that simple. This is not Israel. Now understand, the Israelis, folks, went and handed out assault rifles, fully automatic rifles, machine guns to their people to defend themselves and defend the country. They're going to end up in a big, nasty war, and a lot of people are going to get killed, if not already. Currently, it's the middle of the night. That doesn't mean nothing's going to happen. Who knows what is happening? Uman has been asked to please keep us advised if something pops up in the news. Is this the first move? Is this the first big move? We know that World War III basically got started off with Ukraine and Russia. And then we've been hearing saber rattling by Iran, and now this. But I want to ask you a question. Is it a coincidence? Is it a coincidence that just a couple of weeks ago, the Biden administration, the Democrats in Washington, D.C., gave $6 billion to Iran? You think that's a coincidence? Where do they get the money for all this stuff? Who else has given a lot of money to Iran? That would be Obama. Gave a shit pile of money to Iran. And they are massive supporters, folks, of Hezbollah and terrorism around the world. That's who they are, folks. That's what we get. This is what our country is doing for us, or rather our government. Right? We've got some trouble. Now, in New York City, the Democrats, Socialists of America, that's right, the Democrats, the ding-dongs of D.C., well, the ones that are from New York and, well, other places, they're having their pro-Palestine rally, right? The Democrats, folks, are the party of Ilhan Omar, who hates this country and hates Christians, right? The political party of stupidity, Cori Bush, who is a Marxist, and Rashida Tlaib, who is anti-American, and of course AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and Jamal Bowman, and other idiots. They are holding a pro-Palestinian rally after this historic mass murder event. You bet, folks. Democrats, Ilhan Omar, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Rashid Tlaib, Cori Bush, all of the Jihad Squad and other Democrats, they are out there supporting Palestine, which means they're supporting this mass murder. They're supporting the terrorist groups that have done this. They're supporting child murder. They're supporting hostage taking to battle the injustices they see Israel committing. Now, I don't support violence on either side of this. I don't like any of it. These people are pro-war, just like Lindsey Graham is pro-war. Now, I want you to think about the names, the people I just mentioned, the Jihad Squad. Would they support murder, mass murder of others that they disagree with? They disagree with Israel, so they're supporting Palestine on this. Go Palestine is what they're saying. So if mass murder and hostage taking and child killing occurred elsewhere, would they support it also? What's the difference? You see, there's a difference in war between invading and taking out an army and fighting an enemy, and then killing women, children, idiots, right? Your shall we say, combatant types. So yeah, these Democrats, Ilhan Omar, AOC, and Cori Bush, and Rashid Tlaib, and others in the Democrat Party, they support mass murder and taking hostages and killing children. And I think they would support that here in the United States of America, because they do not like America. Already we know they like abortion, which is killing children. And they want people like you and me in prison camps getting re-educated. So I bet they're good with murder anywhere as long as they support one side politically. And I don't think that is too, I don't think that's too radical of a statement to make on my side. They do not like you and I as Americans, as patriots, descendants of Europeans or slaves. It doesn't matter. If you like freedom and liberty, they don't like you. If you are not part of their cult, they don't like you. And they support anything under the sun when it comes to their political war. This fight against Israel, folks, is not religious. It's because they're saying there is Israeli apartheid, right? It's more of a race thing. Now, see, I'll tell you with regard to this, I'm not partisan. And I'll tell you, I think you better be wary of the murderous secular freaks as much as the religious freaks. On all sides, folks. Understand, I don't support violence from any of these people. I know that you should be defending yourself and defending your people and defending your country. I understand that, right? But whether it's Palestine or Iran or Ukraine or China, Russia, DC, the European Union, Korea, Canada, I say trust no one who has power and a lot of weapons. Don't trust anyone with your life. Don't give your liberties to any government and say, I'm going to trust you with these. You guard them always jealously. We could have some very serious activities kick off over in the Middle East. Very serious. Very serious. Especially if Hezbollah decides to take some credit for some additional terror action. And they said they want to get into it, folks. They want to get into it. Now, understand, Israel has declared war for the first time since 1973. Since 1973. Think about that, folks. That's 50 years. Now, they've had some military actions. In the early 80s, they sent some fighter jets over to Iran and dropped a few bombs on them. But they've actually declared war. Now, I want you to understand the United States government doesn't have responsibility. There are Americans missing over, well, allegedly, supposedly, probably, there are Americans over in Gaza who have been taken as hostages. Gaza is in Israel and the Palestine area where they're fighting and have been fighting, etc. So Americans are tied up in this. You know, it is a shit show. It truly is. Let's do this. Let's see what you want to talk about. Jolene, we got super chat donations. What do we got going? Who is stepping in? And it is Chin Music. And he did a 33.08. A 3308, which is one hell of a nasty caliber, and a great super chat donation. Thank you, Chin Music. And he says this: Hildebeest, meaning Hillary Clinton. Hildebeest has raised her head and opened her mouth to demonize all of us again. People like me, people like you. No one is more full of grace, joy, beauty, and good cheer than an aging lesbian. Says, how fast do you think this rhetoric will be mainstreamed by the media? And do you think it's dangerous as I do? This isn't supposed to happen here, but alas, here we are. Well, Chin, I would like you to put up another comment in case Hillary has said some more stupid shit that I'm not aware of. Specifically, what quote are you talking about? Because I've heard, you know, Hildebeest, Hillary Clinton talking a lot of trash again lately. So get, you know, the particular thing that is of interest to you. Now, what I find fascinating is Hillary is the one out there talking and talking the loudest and talking the most trash. And she is the least liked candidate. If she was loved by the Democrats, she would be their political presidential candidate. She would be there, would she? Or would she not? But she is out talking trash. Now, years ago, she came out of nowhere, just like this, and she said these words, right? There's a limit to free speech. Free speech is not unlimited. Now, we know that there are times when it's illegal, right? Because it can cause mayhem, violence, death, etc. To shout fire in a crowded room when there's no fire. Okay, we got that. Don't do that. That's a crime. But otherwise, free speech is saying whatever the hell you want, whenever you want, with regards to politics especially, and anything that has been politicized, like Cerveza was politicized. So free speech, you should be able to say whatever the hell you want, whether it's misinformation, disinformation, or what have you. Right? Same with the Jim Jones juice, the sheep vitamins, if you will. You should be able to say whatever the hell you want because they politicized it when they tried politically mandating it and politically punishing people. Free speech. Now, what's fascinating to me is after Hillary made the comment about there should be a free speech limit, what happened after that? They started canceling people bigger than shit. They started censoring us on the internet bigger than shit. They started removing people's bank accounts bigger than shit and attacking people physically, their children, their families, harassment everywhere. When Hillary said, even though she is a big fat nobody at the same time, alas, chin music, we started seeing that they were very serious. When they said free speech has its limits, they started making it happen. So when Hillary comes out, and what I've noted she said, the most dangerous, was there should be deprogramming for people who support Trump, for people who are of the Make America Great Again. Thank you very much, Jolene. Make America Great Again. She doesn't like the MAGA crowd. She doesn't like Trump supporters. She even hinted, get this, she even hinted, she's an awful human being, folks. She's an absolute awful human being. Women, men, children, we need to be deprogrammed. We're a cult. We're a dangerous group. She made that statement. For the government to say you're dangerous, you're a cult, you should be deprogrammed. How do you do that? How is that done? How is that accomplished? Well, you have to identify who the bad people are. Who are the bad people? Well, the FBI has been investigating Catholics. The IRS, it has been revealed just over the weekend, folks, the IRS has been revealed to have an incredible amount of IRS regulations referring to Christians, churches, prayer, religion. Hundreds of thousands of pages in the IRS manuals regarding us religious types, people who have a spiritual background. So the Catholics, the Christians, patriots, veterans, right? Trump supporters, we need to be deprogrammed. Well, before they can deprogram us, they have to know who we are. Here I am. You know who I am, Hillary. Come and get me. Try it. Right? They'll have to do it, folks. They'll have to come and get us one by one. Maybe they'll send a letter to us and let us know that we're on a list and that we'll all get our turn. Right? Get those train cars ready, Hillary. Get those cattle trucks ready so you can come by and we'll voluntarily turn ourselves in for some deprogramming. It's very dangerous stuff, folks. All joking aside, all satire and levity aside, I don't think so. I don't fucking think so. But that's what they're calling. They would have to, one, use a government agency or agencies to make lists. IRS, FBI, DHS. Who else you got? NSA, you bet. Alcohol, tobacco, firearms, you bet. Once they have their lists, well, then they need a place to put people. Do they have FEMA camps? Where are they going to put all these people? I know, why don't we shut down a bunch of Walmarts because they're going out of business anyway in certain areas, inner cities, shut down stores. They can roll out some of those nice Constantine wire fences, city parks, you bet. So you need lists and a place to put people. Then you go round them up. And once you get people rounded up, if you can get any of them to come in alive, well, then you got to deprogram them. Now, what does deprogramming an American citizen mean? It means change the way they're thinking, their belief system. It's not just a political affiliation where you check a box. It's what you believe. The only way to deprogram someone is to use drugs and to brainwash them, which means psychological torture. That means keeping someone awake for days and days with drugs while you program them until you break their will, their spirit, and you install a new mental paradigm that they repeat and repeat and repeat. Folks, that's how you deprogram someone. It's by reprogramming them. That's pretty sick, pretty sinister, and pretty twisted, don't you think? And Hillary Clinton said we should do that. Hillary Clinton also said free speech has its limitations. And she was right. They've limited the shit out of it, haven't they? You think for a second I'm going to allow these freaks to come and gather me up and send me to one of their little camps so they can teach me how to get my head right? And not only, folks, disagree with my former stance, but support their murderous attitude? Right? They want to take my gun away from me, brainwash the shit out of me, and hand me another gun and tell me to go round up my own people. That's right. That's how the Suleiman, the Turks, they used to capture Christians in Christian towns as they invaded Europe from the east and the south. It's what they did hundreds of years ago, folks. They would capture Christian children, reprogram them, put weapons in their hands, and turn them loose to start fighting other Europeans. They used their own people against us. Hillary would do the same thing, no doubt. I'm glad to see we got 418 people here live. Hit the thumbs up button. This is your show at Sunday Night Live. Get your super chat donation in so you can get your question on the screen right here. What Hillary Clinton, folks, said is it's beyond reprehensible. It is beyond disgusting. And once again, talking about Ilhan Omar and AOC and Cori Bush and Rashid Tlaib and every other Democrat that supports the killing, mass murdering of children, women, innocents, and supporting it because of their political ideology. Political, not religious. They have a secular hatred for Israel. I don't think Israel's the greatest place on earth. It's not fucking Disneyland for people. Right? I wouldn't go there because I don't trust anyone in the Middle East. I don't like what these people are doing to each other, period. But then to support one side and say, go kill each other. Right? It's awful. Absolutely awful. I'm concerned about my people here in America. Patriotic, God-fearing, moral, decent Americans. That's who I want to defend. And I know a lot of you are the same way. Let's do this. Jolene, we have a super chat donation. Where are we going with it? Who is up first? Hey, it's Mr. Skylight with a $19.99 super chat donation. And he has a great quote from the great Will Rogers. He says, even if you're on the right track, you'll get run over if you just sit there. Oh, folks, by the way, Will Rogers was also a satirist, a comedian, if you will, a humorist, and he would also mix politics and humor together. Will Rogers from way back, early in the entertainment world. Thank you, Mr. Skylight. I appreciate the great donation. I hope you're doing well out on the West Coast, from the East Coast, the North, the South, and around the world. This is the Prepared Mind channel, folks, and it is SHTF time. It is hit the fan bigger than shit in the Middle East, and we're going to find out exactly how big it gets, how quick. Israel, well, Bibi, Benjamin Netanyahu, He's promised that there's going to be hell to pay for this. Truly, folks, he let it out there, right? Not only has Israel declared war, something they haven't done since 1973, 50 years ago. Netanyahu has declared war against Hamas. And they've gone in there and already blown up, taken out one of their, they're basically hotel for terrorists. All right, let's do this. Let's do a super chat donation if we shall. Jolene, who do we want to step on up? It is Mile High Ronan with a $4.99 super chat donation. Thank you for that right there, Mile High Ronan. I appreciate it. That'll put some spam. That'll put some tuna fish in the old Prepared Mind pantry, and probably put a couple of rounds in the old shelf as well. He says, I'll stand my ground. I ain't going to sacrifice myself for this BS. Oh, I hear what you're saying. BS. It's all bullshit. What's going on? They want to make it a secular war. They want to make it a religious war. They just want to drag us into it. Right? People like the AOC hit squad, the jihad squad, they want war because they hate one side. Well, Lindsey Graham, who's supposed to be on the other side of the political aisle, he wants war. They all want war, folks. You start dragging other people into it, and you're like, okay, you taking Americans hostage? Now we need to get involved. Well, the United States already got involved by sending $6 billion to Iran. Iran gets involved by sending weapons to Hamas, sending weapons to Hezbollah, taking credit for it. That's right, folks, taking credit for it. Those terror groups use those missiles, thousands of them, launch into Israel and attack them, and then go on a killing spree. They take credit for all of it. And then these idiots in America and Europe, they all want to jump up and down. Remember 9/11? 9/11, folks. The Twin Towers were supposedly hit by hijacked planes. Who was cheering when they saw that? Everyone from the Middle East. When they didn't think other people could speak Farsi or whatever language they were gibberishing, they would report it, go, yeah, they're celebrating. They're thinking this is good. Fuck America. They hate America, folks, while they're here making money off us and living well. They do. I'm not going to sacrifice myself for these other countries. I don't think we should send our military over there, because whether you support one side or the other, what do we get out of it? Oh, by the way, Afghanistan, the Taliban, they're all for this as well. Guess what they want to do? Not only have they been sending United States military systems that were left behind by Joe Biden, General Milli Vanilli, Secretary of State loser Lloyd Austin, the Pentagon, they left 85, 84, 86 billion. Hey, give or take a couple $1 billion in equipment. Explosives, drones, tanks, rockets, bombs. You bet. The Taliban is asking Iran for permission. They're asking for permission to go through their country to get to Israel so they can fight. Oh, they want to gather the armies of the earth together and blow the fuck out of themselves. You think I want Americans in the middle of that shit? Now, what gets me, and this is a big deal. Thank you, Mile High Ronan. Thank you a bunch. Pass the word on, share this internet address, get people here to talk about this. This is really fucked up, folks, what's going on. They are wanting everyone over there fighting this battle, fighting this war. Oh, they do. You know what the big accusation is? And I'm not seeing a whole lot about it in the news. Ooh, man, weigh in if you will. They're asking Mossad, how could you not know this was going to happen? They should be asking the CIA, how could you not know this was going to happen? There was no chatter, no traffic, no sign of any buildup. on the Palestinian side. There were no spies. There were no informants. There was no sign. There was no indicator. There were no satellites. There were no drones showing any increase in activity leading up to this. None at all. So Mossad had no clue this was coming, huh? Or did they? Did they have indicators that this was going on? That the Palestinians and their terror groups, Hamas, were bringing in extra armament, that were getting ready. You don't just launch 1,000 fucking missiles, folks, accidentally. You don't, it doesn't happen, right? One at a time. That would take days. Missile launch, computer, send it off. Right? No, they launched thousands, meaning they were all set up, all programmed, all ready, and nobody knew, huh? Well, Uman just sent me a little chart here of what the Taliban would like to bring to bear on the situation. Let's take a look at the inventory. So good stuff, Mr. Uman. Thank you much. Welcome to the Prepared Mind channel, folks. I'm going to tell you what's on the menu for shit hitting the fan, Armageddon style. Let's see, 22,000 Humvees, 630 M1, 111, 17, whatever the fuck those are. They're like MRAPs. No, these are the MRAPs. 155 of those Max Pros, 169 M113s, 42,000 pickups. Well, that's okay. 64,000 machine guns. Looks like 8,000 stake bed trucks, 360,000 assault rifles, 360,000 assault rifles that Joe left behind. Good job. Yeah, pistols, 33 helicopters, another 33 Blackhawks, and wow, 4 C-130s. Unbelievable, folks, the amount of stuff they left there. Hey, thanks, Uman. Good to know that the Taliban is now one of the most well-armed militaries on the planet. Top-grade American munitions, and they want to drive them over there. I saw pictures of the fields of equipment that the Taliban, a religious anti-Jewish or anti-Israeli military force, just a couple of countries away, asking permission if they can come and join the fun at Armageddon. Now, what gets me and worries me most, I know they've got their problems over there, folks. What happens if they fire it up here? We've talked about sleeper cells. We've talked about sleeper cells. What is a sleeper cell, you say? Well, it would be people from another country that is not friendly to us, who have been trained in, how we say, unconventional terrorists and warfare. How hard is it to blow up a power substation? Not very hard at all. Couple of guns, couple of shotguns with some slugs, rifles, shoot holes in the transformers, game over. You do that in enough cities, do that in enough substations, and you take down entire areas of the country. It's no secret. And before I ever said a word about it, they had one practice run that they had done in San Jose, California. Very successfully took down power for a large section of the area. That's in the South Bay area by San Francisco, for those of you who don't know San Jose. Now, sleeper cells. What else could they do? They could attack schools. They could attack churches. They can attack government buildings. They can attack whoever they want. Don't worry, they'll stay away from the Marine Corps and the Army. They don't want to get their asses kicked and get killed in one day. But a sleeper cell can be anywhere from, well, one person. More than likely, though, it'll be 6 to a dozen people per cell. They'll have the equipment all ready, money in place, weapons all sent. Don't forget, folks, that the Obama administration supplied the drug cartels in Mexico with guns. It was Operation Fast and Furious under Attorney General Eric Holder. It was a bullshit, fake reverse sting operation handoff with the anal trumpet by Obama to try and screw us over in America. And what happened is, well, federal agents were killed. And that's right, the Mexican drug lords had all of our guns. And now we have guns coming from Ukraine back there. You think they're not being handed to these terrorist types? You think the terrorists are not smuggling their own guns into the country? We have a big threat here. That is why you need to be prepared. If shit goes down in your city or the city next to yours, just be ready and aware that it can be, the signal can be given and there could be trouble in any one place. You could lose power, you can lose water. You lose power, that means you're going to lose fuel. This is not fear porn. This is preparedness. Preparedness. Do not, for the next several weeks, let your fuel tank go below half. It's very simple. You just fill it up every time it drops to half a tank. You make sure you have a good solid fridge. Don't go stocking shit up crazy. Don't go buy 100 cases of toilet paper. Just make sure you have what you need to survive at least a week. Get prepared. Let's do this though. Let's do a super chat donation. Pow. Let's see what you guys want to talk about. And it is Ooman. And he says, speaking of disarming the population, as Illinois, which to normal people is Illinois, but if you live in there, it's Illinois. As Illinois tries to pass further restrictions on firearms, Chicago had 37 people shot in less than 24 hours. And the weekend isn't over. No, not by a long shot. Now, the reason he brings this up is, well, yeah, we better get rid of guns because look at all the people being shot in Chicago. Chicago already has their gun bans. They already have restricted firearms. It's already very difficult to get weapons there. And look how bad it is. And the people there, because they're so violent, essentially have scared the police out of many areas. So it is run by these drug lords, these scumbags, these local gangs. Me, Chicago, not a fucking chance. I wouldn't get anywhere near that place or any other big city at this moment, right? Because now you have, well, not only the local idiots and local gangs, we've got foreigners and foreign gangs and sleeper cells getting into this country. And then you have populations of foreigners who have been here many years who have harbored discontent and hatred towards our country. Now talking a bunch of shit, right? Because people back home are really getting out of hand and they're wanting to fight Israel. You bet they're going to jump up and down. They love it, folks. They love war. They love destruction. That to me sounds a little bit like evil, if you want to know the truth. Like, well, John, you're a Marine, man. You Marine guys, you love to kill. Well, we're trained to kill, you bet. We're trained to do all sorts of nasty, awful things in the name of defending the country and our people. Is it going to get that bad? I sure hope not, but I'm prepared in case it does. All right. Thank you, Mr. Hooman. Jolene, who's going to step up next? Who's got something to say? It is Bioxo77 with a $1.99 super chat donation. And I want to thank you guys. Your super chat donations, well, they keep the old pantry full of preparedness, keep the ammo closet full of preparedness, keep me on my toes. Anyways, Bioxo says, Killary and Katie, maybe they start a new talk show. You bet. Oh, I think, well, we talking about Katie Couric here? Yeah, she hates Americans too. Katie Couric, cute little Katie. Cute little Katie Couric. She wants us in re-education camps. I don't know if you remember her. That's right. The media has stepped in this a long time ago. They picked sides years and years ago, and we're all now suffering under it, folks. I think Hillary Clinton should have her own social media channel. You bet I do. I think she should be on the internet every single day, spreading her message of hatred for Americans and hatred for freedom and her hatred for everything that is holy and decent. Yeah, I think that'd be smart, because the more she says, the more she wakes people up. She is dangerous. She is a lightning rod for negative attention. Oh, Hillary Clinton. But for some reason, they felt it was a good idea to drag that old filthy fossil out of a closet, right? Shoot some drugs into her so she could maintain her consciousness for more than 5 minutes, and have her say some awful, awful shit, like we should be deprogrammed. All righty. Oh, holy crap. Well, let's go ahead and take Mr. Biaxo down. I've got a special guest that wants to step in, and I have to caution everybody. This is Kaz, formerly fourth dimension, fifth dimension. What dimension did you come from, Kaz?
It was formerly the fourth dimension before YouTube decided to squash me.
You bet. Now you operate under the Italian Hillbilly channel on YouTube.
That is correct.
Okay, so I have to caution you. I know you are a passionate man. Let's try not to get the show canceled the way I did. What was it? Three weeks ago, they cut me off in the middle of a broadcast. I don't even know what I said. Anyways, man, I know today you have been on a tear at the Italian Hillbilly channel. Now that you're here, man, what do you want to talk about?
Oh man, dude, I just chimed in and Uman sent me the link. He was like, "Hey, why don't you come on?" And I'll be like, "I got stuff to talk about."
You got stuff to talk about.
My biggest focus as this whole thing over in Israel has just been a sandwich all across the board. What's in some of the video that's been coming out of that, it's just absolutely been horrific. I mean, just the brutality, the niceties of what we've seen, these cleansed versions on our CNN and MSNBC of war. Let's
talk about some of the. If you got kids here, get them out of here. If you want them to understand what really happens, you've got 5 seconds to run. Kaz, I would like you to describe some of the footage that's been put up on social media and other places to describe what the Palestinians are doing and how they're kind of bragging about it. They're very proud of what they're doing. All right, 5 seconds is up. What do you got, Kaz?
Man, I'll tell you, again, we get the sanitized version here in the U.S. and in general in the public sphere. But I've had and I'm going to say it like the unfortunate privilege of seeing some of the videos that have come out directly on the Palestinian telegrams and the TikToks, and it's coming directly from them and this was going down yesterday at 11 o'clock our time. So it had been a few hours, it gave them time to upload the stuff. And some of it was just horrifically brutal. I mean, the worst, think of like the worst possible things that you could think done to a human being, especially of the female persuasion, being done openly in the street by the Taliban.
Am I correct?
Yeah. I was just trying to be subtle about things. And I mean, I'm not talking about like just some of the videos. I mean, I don't even want to, just for the cleansing, being PC and trying to keep this in. I can't even describe it in a way that would portray it. That people
I saw pictures and videos of children who were captured as hostages being held in cages. Mm-hmm. Dog cages.
Yeah.
They're children.
Yeah.
And these are trophies of war for these Palestinian scumbags.
That was the other thing. There's a list now that's gone up. Apparently, there are female IDF soldiers that are being openly sold. I can send you the links to that later if you would like. But it's the pictures of the IDF soldiers.
The IDF are the Israeli Defense Force. So these are captured IDF soldierettes, women, who are now being sold as sex slaves.
Yes. Yeah. And from some of the videos, a lot of them didn't even make it that far that I've seen. And it's been horrific, man. And the things, open warfare in the streets, like some of the videos that were shocking even to me, and I got a pretty, pretty sick moral sense of, okay, whatever. But
you're pretty rough. You've been around, yeah.
So violence
by what's going on. That's
right. But when you see soldiers, like cars, imagine you're going down your local 2-lane highway and some dude just walks out from behind a building and starts unloading into oncoming traffic and into the windshields of these vehicles. Mm-hmm. But this was not one guy. This was 5 dudes, and they're all coming out and they're just opening up into traffic. And then some of the videos that came out after that have been released, I'm sure some of the people here have seen, are just the bodies that are strung about on the highway, cars burning and bodies strung out on the highway of dead Israelis. And it was really like, you want to say like random violence, but it wasn't random violence. These were targeted to Israeli civilians, and I get war, right? I get attacking military targets. I get that type of war. This type of warfare is totally foreign to me, where it's just random murder, slaughter.
Well, I read something where one of the pro-Palestinian terrorists has said, well, we're not targeting women and children. And I thought, well, what did I see?
Right.
We're not targeting civilians. Well, what is it when you drive a truck down the street with the bed full of Palestinian terrorists just shooting into the crowds as they drive by?
Right.
How is that not targeting civilians? And that's exactly, Hamas and Hezbollah are terror organizations. And the way they operate is they commit acts of terror against civilians. And an act of terrorism is a threat or an action that causes a government to take a political stance and change the way they behave. That's terrorism. And it's usually done against civilians because the government is sworn to protect civilians and supposed to. And so they're a bunch of hypocritical lying sacks of shit, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. They're doing everything they can to cause chaos, death, and misery.
Like I said, war is one thing. This is just slaughter.
Yeah. Well, it's completely awful, and I don't like any of it, and I don't like either side, folks. I don't like what the Palestinians are doing. I understand why they're mad. I'm not an ignorant idiot. All right, I know that Israel is not the greatest place on earth if you want to live there and you're not a high-level Israeli. It's a system. It's a governmental system and a social system with a caste system. Am I incorrect?
Yes, you're right.
Okay, so none of them are nice in this area of the world. They all hate each other, and they all continue to give each other a reason to hate each other. But now we've got Americans in there. We've got other countries wanting to get in there. You've got Iran sending weapons in there. We've got the United States government giving Iran money. Right? How is this not going to look good? It's a mess. Now, Kaz, let me ask you this question. And I did talk to someone yesterday about this as well and get their opinion, but I want yours because you're here now. Is Israel has nuclear weapons? Mm-hmm. Is there any doubt that they do?
No question in my mind.
Even though the International Atomic Agency isn't allowed in there to go. We all know they've got them.
Yeah, Fox guarding the hen house with the International Atomic Agency kind of thing. The other foxes are going to cover for each other. You know what I mean?
Right. Correct. Is there a chance that they could light someone up?
I personally don't think that they would use them on their own territory or what they perceive as their own territory, i.e. the Gaza Strip.
They wouldn't use one on Gaza, no.
No. I don't even foresee them using them on like Lebanon or in Jordan. What I would possibly see would be a retaliatory strike, and I'm going out on a limb and spitballing, so don't take this for just a grain of salt. This is just conjecture on my part.
Hypothetical conjecture.
Yeah. What I would actually see is if they can prove that funding for this operation came from Iran. Yeah, that's a wrap.
Orders came from Iran for this massive operation.
That's a wrap. I would say 50-50 odds on that one.
That they would take out Tehran,
yeah,
which is the capital city.
They'd pop off Tehran.
Now, the leader of Iran, he's a Khomeini. You know, some people think a Khomaniac. Anyways, this guy, he's shooting his lips off. He's congratulating and glad handing, and he's very happy about this series of events going on in Israel. So I can't see how they're not going to become a bigger part of this.
The entire Iranian parliament yesterday joined in a celebration in their parliament, chanting "Death to Israel, Death to America." So that gives you an idea.
They threw in America too, did they?
Yeah, of course. Well, you know, it's what it takes. Just kind of, you might as well make it a nice round thing, you know, to cover the bases.
Bunch of bastards, yeah. They can't be satisfied with just, you know, pissing off one country. Now, Iran, and if it could happen, that's all I'm gonna say. I'm not wishing for it.
No,
but it's possible.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been I would say that's probably 50-50. My next concern is all of the weapons, as you touched on earlier, that were in Taliban hands that are now going to be working their way down to Jerusalem, because the Taliban asked Jordan and Iraq, or Iran, I can't remember which, maybe it was Iran and Jordan, for safe passage to conquer Jerusalem.
Right.
So that'll be fun.
Well, yeah, you know, I call this one the Sunday night ZOO-Maggedon. You know, it's a fucking zoo, and really the armies of the earth, or at least the Middle East, all seem to want to converge and have a battle there. I don't necessarily think of it in terms of the religious Armageddon, but rather just all of the hatred that's been developing for decades and decades. And, you know, the people
my attitude on the whole thing is this has been going on for 2,000 years, you know, between all of them. And you know, with the, what was the Yom Kippur War, when Israel wiped out Egypt and Jordan and a bunch of other ones, you know, that they have not forgotten. You know what I mean? They have not forgotten. And those kinds of genetic memories last. So I expect this to actually probably amplify probably even further, depending on in the next few days. I'm interested to see how the tide of battle shifts and momentum shifts. The one thing that we have really noticed is the TTP that's been going on over there, and how tactics, techniques, and procedures. This is one of the chats going on in our other groups. How the infiltration initially happened, the critical failure of Mossad and the intelligence agencies to understand the infiltration that's happened, and then how the tactics were used to inflict maximum damage throughout. They've controlled more territory basically in 2, 3, 4 days now than the Ukrainians were able to control in 2 years.
Right.
So, I mean, you got to look at it. So that was what, you know, one of the things that we're looking at, the surprise, the intelligence failures, all of these things that are falling into place, and how it was being used. Now, how can that correlate to what we're seeing in our own countries going on right now, and with our borders and our intelligence agencies? You know, who are they focused on?
Let me ask this question here. There's been some reports that some high-level military, you know, officers in Israel have been arrested, cooperating with the Palestinians. Is that misreporting?
Yes. Yeah, that is absolutely misreported. Those videos that came out, they were actually from Azerbaijan, and those were political. I believe it's political prisoners or some anti-government thing. Yeah, that was not. That was not.
We don't have that level of treason, but we do have a complete bungling on the part of Mossad and the CIA.
Yeah, we can call it at best a bungling, and you know, there are plenty of conspiracy theories out there that are touching on this from different angles, if you will. Some would call it they let it happen, kind of a Pearl Harbor situation.
Right.
You know, and then there's also another argument that most of the good intelligence officers are operating elsewhere in the world and kind of not keeping an eye on their own hen house, if you will. You know what I mean? So there's that argument. But yeah, flatline is just the intelligence community dropped the ball at best.
That's the best. I can't believe that if you have somebody inside, like if they've got moles, they've got counter agents, you don't just put them in there for one day. They go in and they stay in. They are now acting as Hezbollah or Hamas or the Palestinian Liberty, the PLO. They're there permanently. That's going to be their life until they get pulled out and retired. So the people that they had in place for intelligent purposes were already there. And like I said, if you've got thousands of missiles, rockets lined up to go into Israel, that's not going to be done quietly. So any of your people who are there, over there, your counterintelligence officers, your spies, if you will, they're going to see that and know about that and report that shit. It's not like they're going to launch one or two. They had thousands lined up. How could that not make it back into Tel Aviv or Jerusalem or wherever their headquarters are, Mossad?
Right. And at the very least,
this shit's coming.
At the very least, the banking cartels would have been able to see the transfers of these massive amounts of money. You don't get that kind of money to launch 7,000 missiles in 2 days to buy these kinds of weapons that quickly. It just and it not set off some red flags. It just my take on it. Yeah,
truckloads over months of this shit coming in. Months of work.
They're crawling up our butt over a $600 Venmo, so that'll tell you the difference.
Right. So yeah, the amount of let's let this shit happen is just awful.
Well, and then of course, you can dive into conspiracy theories on who benefits. Key bono, right? Who benefits? Why would they let this happen? Who's going to benefit for it? Well, ironically, we decided we weren't going to fund the Ukraine. I don't know, a month ago or 2-3 weeks ago. Now all of a sudden this kicks off, and hey, we got to fund more money to Israel. So again, all your own conspiracy theories there. I'm trying to look at this from a hard facts standpoint, and regardless, I don't try not to even get political with it, because to see these tactics being used, and to see the horrific slaughter, that just the brutality of it. It sets off my spidey sense when I look around, especially at our southern border. And I know I've sent you guys some videos of some of the things that we've seen down there, and Vaughn's even touched on the things he's seen down there. You just kind of got to really question these tactics could easily be implemented in attacks here.
Well, we've worried about it for years, even before the massive immigration or invasion, if you will, coming, that was being funded by Soros and other NGOs, sending people from around the world into Central America and Mexico, and then having them shipped, bused, trucked, trained up to the border, and then trying to get across. The reports from them being Chinese and Russian to African and Middle Eastern, just from all over the planet, just trying to pump them in here. That threat existed before that. The worry that they could commit a coordinated, low-level, low-technical, low-cost terror attacks against our country.
And we've seen what the low-tech versions can do. Look at the Ukraine with just DJI magic, drones that have dropped things on them. We've seen what those glider, kamikaze glider drones. We've seen, just the simple things of like setting mortar tubes up, freezing the round, putting the round in the tube, and as it thaws, you're gone before it falls out and drops and then launches and goes wherever it needs to go.
Right.
That's low tech, warfare, but it's done in a fifth generation version where you're using human beings to overwhelm a system economically, socially, politically, as human bioweapons. It's actually kind of brilliant if you sit back and look at it from that point.
Well, it just goes to show that the low tech and the massive amounts of foot power, if you will, human power, can overwhelm a highly technical system. And here we are. We're in that room now. Again, sadly, from your desk, you can't do anything. Man can't. I can't. I can sit in the bunker and bitch all day, but it's not going to change anything. if I can help people become aware of what's happening, Kaz,
Right.
is my primary function here, is to get people prepared with the
Right.
basic necessities, and then to understand why this is happening.
Right. Well, the one thing that we can do, the one thing we can do is encourage everyone to, if you don't have a firearm, get one and get trained with it, and do the food, water, shelter, clothing, medicine, means of self-defense. Or as I like to say, beans, band-aids, and bullets, and have a plan, absolutely. Just get ready. Because, I mean, if it can happen that easily there, and Israel has had one of the best intelligence services in my lifetime, for years. So for them to be able to drop the ball that badly, and we know how good our intelligence services are here. So, it would behoove you to heed John's advice and get yourself prepared.
Well, the thing with the Israelis is they are, essentially just a couple of cities. The United States of America is from sea to shining sea. We've got dozens of major metropolises. Israel is very condensed, very small couple of cities, right? You got Tel Aviv and Jerusalem, and there's not a lot there. So they're easy to target. And so the people of Israel, many of them, I think they have compulsory or mandatory military service. Teachers are armed. There's military on the streets armed. So there's always a feeling of, martial control over the city. I know they have regular police, but the IDF is out at all times patrolling. They're always in a condition of readiness for war. And they're trained for it, and they expect it, and they're realistic about how they are hated by the Palestinians. America here, we're a big, dumb, sleeping giant relative to the way Israel is prepared. So we could be attacked and a lot of hurt put to America before everyone nuts up and does what they're supposed to. As a prepper, as an American, as a veteran, as someone who's ready, you won't be taken off guard and be put in a condition where you can be victimized very easily and hurt, et cetera. So that's the idea behind prepping, is to try and be ready for anything that comes.
I have to, for me personally, I have to say this. The one thing that I just got done refixing my kit and checking my truck gun. I never used to have a rifle in my truck. I do now, and extra magazines. They're just things like that, because again, when you see things like this and you never know. You're just driving down the road one day and then all of a sudden it pops off. Well, it's, fight or flight, right? You got a choice. I can run like hell, or if I can't run like hell, I'm at least gonna be able to fight my way out of it. So, or die trying. So
that's all. ZOO-Man's comment here. He says their definition, meaning the Palestinian definition of civilian, is different than ours. They view everyone there as all the settlers in Gaza. They see the Israelis as invaders and settlers, right, on their land, as if they're thieves. So that's how they view them.
Well, the argument could be made that the Native Americans felt the same way about our ancestors.
Yeah, and the Native Americans, they treated each other that way.
Exactly. Yes.
And everyone has always treated someone else that way when they want their stuff.
Well, yeah.
So it comes down to the base morality. Do you kill women and children? Now, I've read the Old Testament, and if they are big enough to piss against a wall, you kill them. Meaning, you didn't allow any children to live who couldn't stand on their own feet. Anyone older than 1 year old typically was killed. This is biblical. This is Old Testament shit. You fucked everyone up. You killed everyone.
Yeah.
That's how they like to fight over there.
Yeah, it's just brutal. I mean, and it touched my delicate sensibilities. So,
and you are a kind and gentle man compared to them.
Yeah, apparently. At least I like to think my moral compass points north most of the time.
Most of the time, yeah. So let's just take that as an example. You're a veteran, am I correct?
Yeah.
So Kaz is a veteran. I'm a veteran. There's lots of veterans here in America. And if we were to see this level of brutality coming from invaders in our country, I can just imagine the level of retaliation that could occur, and we could end up with a massive, just an outpouring of anger, frustration, and hatred.
Yeah,
the likes of which this country has never seen in the world.
I could see. I mean, it could go full purge mode. Honestly, I mean that's the best description that I can put up with it.
That's the potential there.
Yeah.
Well, that's a great comment. Now, Kaz, I got you here, man. It's been a while since I've had you on the air. Jolene says we got a super chat, which means someone has something that's addressing this very topic. Let's get it on the board here. And it is David G with a 2230 super chat donation. That's 223, which is 556, which means it's go time. Anyways, David G says, I don't care if the Jays turn Gaza into a beach resort. I care about our current invasion. I'll tell you what, David, what you're saying is you don't care if the Israelis light up Gaza, Palestine, Iran. You care about our invasion, the American invasion that's occurring at our southern border. And my concern is how world wars start. It starts in a regional zone, and then it ends up spreading everywhere. So I do care if the Israelis light up and turn to glass a lot of sand, because it very well could. How would you describe that? It would just spread.
Yeah.
Another country says, well, we don't like what you did. Now we're going to light you up. All of a sudden, it looks like a bar fight. Everyone's smashing each other on the head with chairs and nuclear missiles.
Well, that's the fear. There is, we touched on Iran. Iran earlier. There's a defense pact between Iran and Russia. I about said Soviet Union. Soviet.
Yeah, the Russians, they have a defense pact. Same with now Saudi Arabia. I think the United Arab Emirates. They've got some close relations now with China as well. Mm-hmm. India, I know, is not that tight yet, but they've chosen sides.
Yeah, the BRICS. Yeah.
The BRICS is it's a economic, but it's also a pseudo military connection is being developed. But if Iran is taking credit for this massive attack on Israel, that's akin to a declaration of war. Now, once again, they're using the Palestinians as a proxy army, the same way the United States of America is using Ukraine as a proxy army to try and push Russia out of former Ukraine territories. I'm trying to say that as proper as I can.
Right.
So, does Jerusalem, does Israel have a right to go after Iran?
If it's done in a manner that, how do I put this? It has to be surgical. You cannot use a broadsword on this. If there is a way to tie it, I would say it would be done more in a way that would be done, say, in a special operations kind of conditions. Not so much in the, hopefully, God forbid, a nuclear detonation, or even
we're already saying 50-50 on.
Yeah, even in a honestly, the best thing they can do is just level Gaza, secure their borders, and back off. That's the safest bet. I don't know that the rest of the Muslim world, Islamic world, is going to allow that to happen now. Blood is in the water, you know what I mean? And the sharks are definitely circling.
Well, the Muslims everywhere, I love to call them Muslims. They're frothing at the mouth with pleasure, joy. They're just going bonkers over this worldwide.
Yeah, there's been a terrorist attack in Egypt, and what we're seeing protests in New York now, pro Israel and pro Palestine. How long will it take for those to turn into something ugly? Here in the States.
Exactly.
Who knows? We don't know.
So I think you're right. The smartest thing that Israel could do would be to secure all their borders. They ought to be on the hotline with Jordan and other countries, Syria, all around them, and say, hey, look, this is where we're at.
Turkey's going to be a big factor in this. People don't know that yet, but I have a true feeling that Turkey or Erdogan is going to show his butt, if you will, even as because he, you know, Turkey being in NATO and he has a deciding vote on a lot of things in there. He might be able to, I don't know, sway things one way or the other. I haven't put my finger on where he's going to fall into play, but I know he's going to be a factor in this.
Turkey's been a wild card that I've been looking at, and you probably have too as well, with respect to the Ukraine war.
Exactly.
Turkey is the second largest military in NATO, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, but Turkey has been, at the very least, economic military allies with Russia as well. And they've got an axe to grind in Syria. In fact, you are absolutely correct. We had some Turkish-Israeli military exchange the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
So, yeah, if Israel doesn't like what Turkey has to say or do, and is the rest of NATO going to come and attack Israel?
No, we know that's not going to happen.
They have their rule.
Yeah, that Article 5. Yeah, the Article 5 of the NATO treaty.
Any NATO country attacked has to be defended by the rest.
That's man, things get really scary there.
So then you run into, well, the United States is NATO, so the United States now has to do something about Israel if Israel attacks NATO. Now, what if NATO attacks Israel? What if Turkey strikes first? Or it doesn't matter who strikes first. The moment a NATO country is attacked, Article 5 comes into play.
So yeah, it's a crapshoot. The whole thing. You know, I didn't have this on my 2020 apocalypse bingo card. You know, Israel and the fall of Jerusalem. So I don't know if anybody else did, but it wasn't on my card.
How do you do it? But like we're saying is, you know, I care about America.
Exactly.
First, I mean, but you can see how the different ways that we can be drawn into it. Yeah, I mean, you know, Israel, secure Gaza, secure Palestine, bomb the living shit out of all of them. Don't drag the rest of the world into it.
Right.
But if Israel does what we prescribe they need to do, which is kick the living shit out of everyone close to them, what will the rest of the world do? What will Turkey do? Turkey is a huge factor. I'm glad you brought it up, Ken.
Yeah, Turkey, I think, is going to play a key role in whatever the response to this is. It's they're just a wild card. I mean, there's no other way to, even though I know they're in NATO, but you just cannot, they're not friends with NATO, you know?
It's an odd arrangement. I don't know why it was ever allowed.
Exactly.
No, but then you brought up Russia being in a defense agreement status with Iran. If Iran gets nuked, of course, that would be very bad. Right. Even if they send over a couple of I don't know what jets does Israel have our F-35s now?
Yeah, they do have. They got F-15s, F-16s, and F-35s.
All right. They decommissioned all the Hornets, the Super Hornets, the 18s.
I'm not sure. I just know. Last report I saw was the 16s, 15s, and 35s. I think they swapped out the 18s for 35s.
I have a soft spot for the F-18s. Anyway, cool. Who doesn't? Anyway. If they, you know, shoot a few over there, take out some targets, what is Russia's response going to be? I think Russia playing the cool hand. Putin is very intelligent. He's not going to get drawn into something that is going to hurt Russia. But well, the defense pact with Iran.
The other danger is Syria. The Russians have, as you know, massive amounts of troops in Syria. And if this spills over outside of the borders into Syria, or, you know, from Lebanon into Syria, into Jordan, or God forbid the Taliban comes down, or, you know, who mobilizes when and where, and some Russian troops get killed, we're looking at a different ball game again. You know, there's so many angles.
We have a port. Is it Tartus in Syria? As a Russian naval port. They can come down through the Black Sea, right through Turkey, right? And now they're in the Mediterranean. In fact, I think they're in the Mediterranean. They probably have a lot of their subs, nuclear subs. But the American Navy is sending, I think, a blue water group over offshore from Israel. So we've got a lot of military activity in the Mediterranean, which can And it's going to lead me right to a 1967, or is it 65? The USS Liberty,
Oh,
an American warship. The USS Liberty was floating offshore, and it was attacked by Israel, our ally, with the intent to destroy it and draw the United States military and country into the war against Egypt.
mhm.
And it failed. The USS Liberty refused to fucking sink.
Yeah.
It was covered up by the military. It was covered up by the government. It was covered up by the media. It was never reported. That could happen and draw us into a naval battle with the Russians.
That would be a nightmare. And at that point, it's all on. It's all go.
These are the different ways that we can be drawn into it, which can come back to America. And it's a great point to make. I don't care about those fucking idiots over there that have been wanting to kill each other for 2,000 years. I wish they could do it with sharpened spoons. And, just take themselves out low tech. Instead, we have all this high tech stuff, Gaz.
Swords.
Yeah, where they can draw us in and draw Russia in and draw in Turkey, and so it's a high risk scenario that we're looking at.
Yeah. Yeah, there's really no easy way out of this for any party now at this point. We just hope that more people more other countries, states don't get involved. And the governments do what they do, but it's never the will of the people. It's never. Do you think the poor Syrians who've been caught in the middle of that civil war up there? Do you think they give a word about what government it is? Most of them are trying to survive.
Right. Yeah, and like you, I'm upset to see what's happening to children and women and just all the innocents being destroyed. Mm-hmm. They see it as fair game. Right. What I imagine is that happening in our country, how we would react to that with our level of civility. It would just cause, people can't stand to see one person get killed, around the world, much less hundreds at a time. I think America has been spoiled for far too long with respect to its safety. And now we're going to see the potential of that changing.
I think there are a lot of people, though, that have been sitting on the bench that don't want to be bothered, leave me alone. And I think something like that would get those people that are on the bench involved. And then we're looking at a different world, not just country, world.
Right. So I wonder, that's an interesting way to put it, getting people off the bench. You put me in, coach, right?
Yeah. It's pretty scary.
Yeah, interesting. And I really appreciate you coming on, Kaz. The Italian Hillbilly on YouTube, look him up. Kaz does not talk about his favorite chili recipe very often. Mostly, it's a diet of black and red pills.
Yeah.
A lot of facts, a lot of truth, a lot of hard opinion. He wants to get you thinking probably every bit as much as I do, because he wants you to come to a conclusion that works. Right? I want you to come to a conclusion you're satisfied with, so you can take action as an American and get prepared. That's my plan.
Mine's the same way. I'm the same way. I'm just a little more abrasive about it, I guess.
Well, I'll let you be a bigger a-hole. I mean,
hey, I got a merit badge, man. I earned it.
You earned it. Yeah. Well, we've all been put in this place in this country. For me, it started back with the Clintons taking office in the early 90s, and then Waco, and then Ruby Ridge, and the ATF, and then the assault weapons ban by Miss America herself, who is now dead. Ding dong, that witch is dead.
She's a good politician.
That got me started, and then we had the Oklahoma City bombing, and I'm just like, why are they doing this? Why can't we be free? Why can't they let us alone? Because they don't want us to.
Right. Yeah. Thanks for having me on, John.
My pleasure, and thank you, sir. All right. Checking out. That's Kaz. Welcome back to the Prepared Mind channel. This is Sunday Night Live. So if you've got a thought, there's a super chat button right up there. What do you think? What response do you have to what Kaz and I were talking about? Do you think it really is as threatening a situation and dire as pointed out? Literally, that we could end up going to a limited nuclear war. We could end up drawing other countries in, notably Turkey, Russia, some European nations, the United States of America. Or could we see sleeper cells activated throughout Europe and parts of North America? Oh, up in Canada as well. Canada doesn't get a pass. Is it possible? It's a question that's worth asking because we live in that world. Okay. Let's do this. I've got a lot of topics still, but we have some super chat donations, and Kaz and I got going. We're 90 minutes in, so let's see what you guys want to talk about. Shoot, fire away. We got Dior's checking in with a $20 super chat donation. Again, folks, your donations, keep the lights on in the Prepared Mind bunker, and keep the tuna fish and the shotgun shells fresh. Thank you very much. We couldn't do it without you. We've got bills to pay, and you guys take care of us. Thank you. Dior says Sweden has an increase in gun and illegally smuggled in grenade deaths within the last month. I believe it was 37 deaths last month, says Dior's. Who did Sweden and other European countries import in between the years of 2015 to 2017? It would be people from the countries where they have low education and low IQs. And now we have an increase in gun and illegally smuggled in weapons. Well, those came right about the same time as they brought in, everything into Ukraine. And once they started opening up the storage crates, the storage bins, the storage barns, the storage buildings, right? You started having munitions move, right? You load up a bunch of guns in a truck, one or two crates may fall out. Load up a bunch of grenades into a train car, a few may fall out here and there. And then they end up in the hands of people who are more than willing to buy them and then use them. We have a bunch of these people, folks, out of Syria, out of Libya, out of Iran, Iraq, Afghanistan, Morocco, Egypt, basically the entire disgruntled world. And they got the message. Go to Europe. You can live there. They'll let you in. They'll pay you money. And then they've radicalized themselves and others. And it's an incredible mess we've gotten ourselves into. Yep, Sweden. Not what it used to be, folks. Nope. Probably got as much couscous up there as you've got Swedish meatballs. All right. Thank you, Diorce, very much. Did you want to answer your own question, or was that rhetorical? I don't know. Jolene, who is next? We've had a great turnout today on this Sunday Night Live. We almost tapped 500 at one point, and we got Schlitz Malt Liquor with a $5 super chat donation. Thank you, Schlitz. I appreciate that. In fact, just last night I was talking about Schlitz Malt Liquor. Thank you, Jolene. Just what was in that stuff that would make the bull go nuts? All right, next super chat. What do we got coming up? We've got Penny B with a $6.50 super chat donation. Thank you, Penny B. And she says, Penny could be a guy for all I know. What the hell I know. Nothing to say that's safe for YouTube except hi. Right? I think we are about to get graded on our preparations. That's a very interesting way to say that, Penny. We're about to get graded. In other words, we're going to see how well we are prepared. I think that that's really interesting. Thank you, Penny. I have some data, some datum, some info that I think will that'll help you there. Let me cover that. I know Uman wants to jump in, and let me start with this. In Florida, there's this guy called Florida Man, and he's been arrested. He's a young man. He had detailed plans to kill everyone, at his former high school. Now, this guy, I saw a picture of him. He's white, of European descent, and a complete idiot. He is a young Democrat. He wanted to use violence, folks, to solve his personal hatred for others. And thankfully, he was arrested because of his stupidity. Okay, by the way, not only does he hate normal people, he hates church, he hates schools. He was going to do a school attack, kill teachers, kill his former classmates when he turned 22. This is a typical Democrat in today's world, full of hatred and anger, willing to commit acts of violence. Police uncovered his plans, folks, on his phone. He had a Discord account, social media, and it had details on his mass murder plots. He was going to go into multiple states, folks. That's how grandiose this guy was. This idiot savant. He wanted to kill his stepmom. He wanted to build a bomb. This guy had all sorts of huge ideas about how he was just going to, get his revenge on everyone. Right now, during his police interview, this fucking idiot, right, told the police he wanted to attack a church in Miami, that he did some recon work in Parkland. In other words, he went down and he drove by the school, but he'll call it recon work. Yeah. He was going to go back to the school where 17 people were killed in Parkland and do some more. Luckily, he's now been locked up in a loony bin. But don't think that this guy is all alone. He's not. They are everywhere. And this is an American, European-born, white descent, and a complete idiot willing to turn to violence. What do you think the people are going to do who are here from other countries where violence, folks, isn't rare? It's more like the norm. Are you prepared? Food, water, shelter, clothing, medicine, means of self-defense. I sure hope you are prepared. Get your other family members prepared. Thank you for helping me stay prepared and keeping this show online. Hit the thumbs up if you haven't done so. Share that internet address with others and say, hey, look, start this video. Go back to the beginning and watch the whole thing, because we cover a ton of information on this show. This has been one hell of a Sunday Night Live ZOO-Maggedon. It is, folks. It is a zoo out there. Now, I want to hear what U-Man has to say. What has he got? What you got, U-Man? He says, just for clarification, here we go. Chicago, their gun laws are now the same as the rest of the state since passing their concealed carry laws. Okay. So Chicago is no better or worse than the rest of the state, the entire state of Illinois. Now, down here, down south, I've run into people from Illinois and the upper Midwest, and they are absolutely disgusted with what's happening in Illinois. The same way people in California are absolutely disgusted with Governor Gavin and the state legislature and the big cities destroying the rest of the state with their absolutely asinine belief systems. Wow, folks. All right. And I think we got another comment here from Mr. U-Man that just kind of popped up on my radar. And he says, an operation like that doesn't happen without significant planning and movement. It is very suspicious. Yes, talking about what happened in Palestine, it's quite a mess. Yeah, the amount of United States military equipment, it's finding its way into Sweden. I'm sure Finland. I'm sure all of Europe. The Mexican drug cartels, folks. Let me reiterate. Not only did they get guns directly from Barack Obama's Attorney General, Eric Holder, during the Barack Obama Democrat administration, they pumped a bunch of guns down into Mexico, into the drug cartels, in a sting operation called Operation Fast and Furious, which I don't know how any of that was supposed to help. In fact, the purpose behind that was to make gun owners in America look bad, to help push for more gun control. These people are sick in the head. And now we have arms. They just, folks, when you hear that the U.S. military, the Army, is running out of rockets, bombs, missiles, guns, grenades, whatever, because we've sent so much to Ukraine. And you would think that the Ukraine military would win with it. Well, they're losing. They're getting killed in what's known as the meat grinder, literal meat grinder. And we're ending up with munitions, arms, guns, rockets, rifles, machine guns. They're getting shipped all around the world, up north throughout Europe, down into Africa, over to America, into Mexico. By America, I mean Mexico, and they're going to come up north into our country. Are you prepared for what's coming? Joe Biden and his military, the Pentagon under Lloyd Austin and Milli Vanilli, completely abandoned, well, not only our allies, our civilians, and abandoned everything we had done in Afghanistan. Then they left over $80 billion worth of equipment and improvements. And now that is going to end up on the battlefield, fighting and creating death and mayhem. Look out. Absolutely look out for what is coming next. Now, this happened. And if you've got something to say, super chat donation button is right up there. We've got Cash App, we got Venmo, and we got PayPal. If you've got something to say, get it in, because I've got another 20 minutes and then I'm going to check out. I'll be back tomorrow, see if I can't do a 0 dark 30 on Columbus Day. And then we're going to just continue doing what we do every single day, folks, keeping an eye on the world. Now, you want some more? I've got it right here. On Friday, folks, before all this shit happened, guess what happened? The U.S. State Department expelled 2 Russian officials out of the Russian embassy and said, get the hell out. Well, they did that because, well, Moscow, Russia, Putin kicked out 2 American diplomats out of that country. The American diplomats were accused by Russia of collecting somehow, one way or another, by hook or by crook, they got confidential information out of Russia. And the U.S. government, of course, denied it. But Russia said, hey, you 2 guys, you're spies, you're bad, GTFO. So the State Department says, hey, oh yeah, tit for tat, 2 of your guys, get the hell out of here. Well, if they keep playing this game while war escalates in the Middle East and in Ukraine and potentially in Taiwan, right? You following me here? We are continuing to see a ratcheting escalation of problems in the world. Now, understand, Russia is not just a nuclear superpower. Russia is not just a military force that has a lot of experience now, especially over the last year. Combining that with the Wagner group, the mercenary group that operates in Africa, as well as Ukraine and Russia. They're all over the world, folks, every bit as much as the American mercenary groups are active. So Russia doesn't just have a nuclear arsenal, doesn't just have an experienced military that is inexpensive and high-tech at the same time. Inexpensive high-tech, folks. In other words, they don't waste money enriching their friends. They just build a strong military. They also have the world by the testicles when it comes to energy. Half the world's nuclear fuel for energy creation comes out of Russia. That's a big deal. Not to mention all of the uranium yellow cake that comes out of the Russian allies. Not to mention all of the oil that is sent around the world from Russia. Not to mention all of the natural gas that's supposed to be piped into Europe. Not to mention coal, folks. Coal, oil, uranium, nuclear fuel. Russia can tighten its grip on the world and say, I'm not just going to raise prices. I'm going to cut you off. I'm going to cut you off 25%. We're going to cut you to 50%. You want to keep fucking with Mother Russia? Folks, the United States government and Europe, as far as I see this, they have one choice. And that's to start making intelligent decisions with regard to energy and war. Wars are fought, folks, over energy, and wars are fought over control of resources. And the fight over resources could actually lead to war once again. You know, and I don't want anyone to forget about Africa, the country of Niger right now. We got some we got some issues there. Niger is full of oil. I believe they're the #1 oil producing country in the OPEC cartel. And they also have a lot of the uranium. Uranium, let's see, comes from Kazakhstan, Niger, the United States, Canada, and Australia. I believe those are the 5 big hubs for uranium. Right now, the United States is producing very little. Canada can produce a lot. Australia could ramp up, but then you also have to process them. Folks, just so you understand, all nuclear power does is put 2 pieces of uranium together. They get very hot, they react. It heats up water, creates steam, turns a turbine. There's your electricity. But to get to a point where you have 2 pieces of uranium that will react with each other, from the time you get the uranium yellow cake out of the ground, it takes 2 years to make that into that fuel. It is a long, arduous, complicated technical process, and the United States gets 40% of its power from nuclear. So we could have our country shut down practically. I'm not going to say overnight, but over the course of a year, we can be shut down and really crippled. And we can't make it up. We can't just turn on the light switch and start creating this power. Joe Biden has shut down our oil, shut down oil exploration. They haven't shut down nuclear, but they just haven't done anything to start it up, to fire it up, to get us producing more. You can't just go to the store and buy a nuclear reactor the same way you can buy a gas power generator, which of course they're trying to make gas power generators illegal. Our government in Washington, D.C. is intentionally hamstringing the rest of us. So we need to understand the amount of stress and pressure we could all be put under, which is why we prepare. It's not just what's going on in Israel. It's not just what's going on in Ukraine. It's not just what's happening with Taiwan. It's not just the invasion at our southern border. It's not just any one thing. It's the total aggregate amount of all of the crap that's happening. All of it. All of it. And people that were once our allies now appear to be, at the very least, hostile. In many ways, our enemies. Remember this thing called Saudi Arabia? Its leader, Prince, what was his name? Mohammed bin Salman, Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia. Well, not so much anymore. He was cooperative and friendly with President Trump. We had a good, strong relationship. Oil prices were low, so your fuel prices were low, which kept our food prices low. The world was a safer place. People got along. Joe Biden comes along, and he is a walking insult. So now the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, along with Qatar, have released statements, folks. And guess what? These Hamas attacks against Israel, they are blaming Israel for it. Would they make such an outrageously ridiculous statement if Trump was president? They're using the "it's your fault we attacked you" defense of what's happening. This idea is going to spread that the rest of the world, or the rest of the Muslim world, is going to continue to blame Israel for these attacks on Israel. because the United States is weak, and they also are complicit, absolutely complicit in what is happening, right? Anthony Blinken, what's he, Secretary of State? Biden's Secretary of State, Biden's mouthpiece, Anthony Blinken. He is the jackass who said, let's give $6 billion to Iran. He and Biden, $6 billion they gave to Iran. Anthony Blinken comes out today and says, quote, Iran has unfortunately always used and focused its funds on supporting terrorism. What is he saying? Iran takes its money that it gets and it supports terrorism. So Iran hands money, the United States government, Washington, D.C., Blinken, Biden hand Iran $6 billion and then says, well, we know they use it for terrorism. So why did old bribing Biden give $6 billion to Iran just last week? And now look what's happened. As money changes hands, right? Money changing hands. And here we are. Oh, they didn't start this just last week, I guarantee it. What has happened this week, this weekend, it's been in the works. And it's not just, folks, Saudi Arabia. It's not just the Muslim world. It's not just our American education system, right? It's the entire screwed up Democrat, socialist, left-wing, destructive, anti-American, anti-freedom, whacked out world, right? Like the American tourist, right? He was in an Israeli museum, and his lawyer says he's suffering from, quote, Jerusalem syndrome, because that was the excuse this guy, his lawyer anyways, he was saying, because he destroyed or tried destroying Roman statues, ancient Roman statues. He broke them, defaced them, trashed them. That's what's going on, folks. This guy has Jerusalem syndrome. He didn't like the fact that Roman gods were on display, and so he attacks them. It's almost like the rest of the world is crazy, but regular people who are in their right minds, well, we're being considered and the enemy. We need to have our minds right by being reprogrammed. But it is them who are the most whacked out people of all. Crazy. Absolutely crazy. Now, I hope Kaz is right, or at least his idea about what should be done. And that's that Israel should secure itself and its immediate surrounding area. Right? Benjamin Netanyahu, Bibi, King Bibi, the prime minister of Israel. Right? He has a stark, serious, deadly serious warning to Hamas. He has told the civilians in Gaza, quote, leave now because we will operate forcefully everywhere. Unlike Hamas and their allies, the PLO and Hezbollah and every other terrorist group out there, big and small, who attacked everybody, right? At least the Israelis are being honest and saying, now we're going to come in there and we're going to smoke the shit out of all of you. The question is, though, again, how many other nations are going to join in this mess? Israel has been attacked seriously. Seriously. It should come as no surprise that Israel is going to respond. You kill one of theirs, they're going to kill two of yours, right? You kill one Israeli, they're going to kill two or more. They're going to be good to their word and promise on that. It is going to get ugly. 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 Is a ground invasion of Gaza coming? Is the full might of the Israeli military coming? Starting with air attack, missiles, and helicopter and jet delivered missile attacks? You bet. Will the military roll in? You bet. Is that going to piss off, I don't know, Egypt, Jordan, Syria, Turkey, the rest of the Middle Eastern world? You bet it's going to piss them off. What about Russia? What about the United States of America? What about Europe? I mean, we're all sitting in a restaurant, and this fight has erupted in the corner. Are you prepared to deal with it? All right, I tell you what, I am exhausted. I don't know what else to say about this other than get prepared, right? Food, water, shelter, clothing, medicine, means of self-defense. What questions do you have about what you should be doing? You can ask. Super chats right up here. Ask. Uman says this: Hamas has also announced that they are targeting the Israeli International Airport. 2 Polish military jets scheduled to land, possibly triggering an international incident. Hamas is a terror organization. They are not a government. They are not a military. They are not a country. They are, for the lack of a better term, a private military organization. They are a militia of miscreants. They are guided by a pseudo secular religious belief system. They subsist on a diet of hatred and a love of violence and a belief system that what they're doing is good. Right? Now, I wasn't raised in that system like they are. I don't know their culture because I'm not one of them, but it must be a awful existence to live like that, to think like that, to believe what they believe. And I don't like it being imported into my country or into Europe or anywhere else in the world. I don't like them exporting their hatred, their violence, but it has been. It's happened. It's happened. And I don't like seeing Nazi Germany visited upon the United States of America. In fact, RFK Jr., Robert F. Kennedy Jr., the nephew of John F. Kennedy, the assassinated president, he wanted to bring up Hillary Clinton and her formal call to deprogram us, Trump supporters, America lovers, freedom lovers, constitutionalists, patriots, veterans. You know what RFK said? He says, quote, "It brings to mind re-education camps." So while the rest of the world is going the way of the dodo, idiotically, in our so-called civilized country, right, we have political leadership that just not only hates the country, but hates the people. And even members of their own party, RFK. And he will split the Democrat Party, folks, if he comes in as an independent. And it's going to be a way to punish these globalist leftist scumbags and the rhino Republicans for what they're doing. But there's a lot of Democrats out there that don't hate this country. They're just socialists. They just love the idea of the Democrats. They just loathe the idea of Republicans. They'll vote for RFK. They'll vote for him, Junior. But the fact that he's pointing at Hillary, and he's pointing at the Democrats, and he's pointing at the Republicans, he's pointing at the Never Trumpers and saying, you guys are Nazis. That's right, folks. A Democrat, RFK Jr., is now calling Hillary a Nazi. Brings to mind re-education camps, which were concentration camps, which were death camps. They were Holocaust camps. Hillary Clinton is, in effect, calling for a new Holocaust in the United States of America. If I called for the rounding up of all Democrats to put them in camps, to fix their minds, and I was anywhere near a position of authority, I would be arrested. Folks, that's the world we live in. I sure hope you're prepared. I sure hope you have the items you need and the training you need. Get used to eating your survival chow. Try it out. Make sure you have spices. Make sure you have protein, meat in a can. Get what you need for your family, everyone you can, to get by. To get by for, I would like to see you have 3 months worth of food and a means of self-defense and any medicine you need, including first aid, of course, and lots of horse paste, because we've got that in front of us too. Oh, it's out there. It's out there. Now, I happen to see that Dior's checked back in, and we're right at the 2-hour mark, and Dior's with a 919. Hey, I know what that one is. It's the 919 Parabellum. Anyways, thank you, Dior's. The 9x19 is kind of like a 45 ACP, just a little bit smaller. Anyways, it is a bullet, the 9x19. That's a 9mm. Anyways, he says, I remember reading a headline on Bing, and Bing.com is kind of like Yahoo or Google. It just isn't successful as them. But Bing, he says, I remember reading a headline on Bing about the U.S. shooting down a Turkish drone. Anyone have an idea what that was about? Yes. To cover it very briefly, it has to do with what's going on over Syria. And Syria has been in play since Obama was president, trying to kick out their leader, right? The leader of Turkey. Now, it's a problem because of the Russian base in Syria. They want to bring an oil pipeline through Syria, and Syria doesn't want to have that. Okay, it has to do with oil, power, control, resources, energy, and they've started a civil war. They've tried a coup d'etat. They've tried everything they can in Syria. And Turkey has an axe to grind in Syria, and the U.S. has an axe to grind in Syria, and Israel has an axe to grind in Syria, and Russia has troops in Syria, and the Kurds have peoples in Syria, and the Christians have people in Syria, and the Muslims have people in Syria. It is an ancient country. I believe the capital is Damascus. Damascus is an ancient city, right, where Europe, where Western Asia, where Africa, where the Middle East, where they all meet is, folks. Syria, Jordan, Israel, Lebanon, Turkey, they're all right there. They're all right there. The Russians don't like being watched by the U.S. The U.S. doesn't like being watched by the Russians. Nobody likes being watched by anyone else with these drones or targeted by them. And so, yeah, it was shot down. And I asked the question, well, U.S. is NATO and Turkey is NATO. What happens if they start lobbing shit at each other? What side will the rest of NATO jump to? Will they just kick Turkey out? Turkey will just run right over and join with Russia and say, well, if you don't want us on your side, then we'll take the second largest NATO country militarily and join Russia and China and Brazil and India. What a world, folks. What a world. Thank you, Doris. That was a great super chat donation. Came right through that button right up there, super chat button, because you had something that was on your mind that people need to be reminded of. And I'll just say it right here. The political allies in Europe is in a precarious state because they're broke. Their economy is broke. Their morality or morale is broke. They have allowed an invasion, and it continues to this day, bringing in people who hate Europe, hate European countries, law, and the culture, and they're destroying it, disintegrating it, weakening it. And the fight between Ukraine and Russia is exacerbating the problem of economic weakness and the, shall we say, uniform thinking of Europeans. As some countries, like, we're done supporting the war. We're done supporting with money and military and everything else Ukraine. We're done with what Ukraine is trying to do to our countries by dumping their cheap grain on us. Folks, the West is falling apart while they've been invaded by a civilian military called migrants. I sure hope you are prepared for what's coming. The United States of America is very much insulated from the rest of the world by those two oceans, the Pacific and the Atlantic. But in today's highly international traded world, right, we're not as isolated as we used to be. Hence, take a look at how many millions of people have been forced into Mexico so they could be forced into our country. But we still have a chance to use our relative isolation and protect our country while cooperating with other countries. I'm not saying be completely isolationist, but how about this? America first. We got a hell of a battle in our own country to clean it up before we can even begin to help the rest of the world. And did you realize I've gone the entire 2+ hours without having a single drink of scotch? And a brand new bottle right here. Glenlivet, 18, not one. Well, I guess that makes sense. I should be on guard. Wow. Chance favors the prepared mind. Is yours. And one more thing. One more thing. And this is my warning to you as I sign off. Get prepared for an act of desperation by the deep state. That is to say, the cabal of so-called patriots that think, or we've been told, are here to protect America. Chance favors the prepared mind. Is yours. Semper Fi. God bless America.
They want to eliminate what they call the deep state. The deep state is a cadre of professionals dedicated to honoring the Constitution, the laws of this country, and carrying out the policies of the Congress and the President. The deep state dedicated to carrying out the policies of the President. The deep state dedicated to carrying out the policies of the President.